Hey guys, Ben from Bold Slate here. I've got a cool video for you about how to turn any YouTube channel into a knowledge base that you can sync up to an AI agent and ask questions and get back answers that are well informed from the YouTube content. So I've got the full automation here behind me, and I'll walk you through each part of it. And then after that, we're going to build the whole thing from scratch so you can see my thinking behind the actual build as well. So in this first section over here, we're just entering the YouTube channel ID in this edit fields. So I put my own ID in there. I can also just run this. This will get all the videos. So we have 22 videos on the channel so far. It'll loop through each of the videos. We're using an API here to fetch the YouTube transcript for each video. And I'll show you how to get this as well. And then we're creating a document with the whole transcript loaded. We're updating the document with the whole transcript there. And then we're moving it to a certain drive folder where when it's added to that folder, this workflow will trigger. It'll download the file and add it to what's called the vector store. This is a certain kind of database that works really well with AI. It's able to retrieve information very efficiently. So we're adding it to this kind of database. And finally, once all the videos have been kind of run through here, we have this database synced up to this AI agent. And I can actually just work on this now. I can say, hey, can you tell me about n8n? I kind of already did a demo here, but basically, this will be pulling from the database and giving me an answer from the content on my YouTube. And you could sell this. Let me just stop this so you can see the chat actually working because only one's going to work at a time. So we can see that in real time, it's going to be pulling from that vector database right here. So we can see the reasoning steps here. So it's pulling from my channel. Of course, it says Bold Slate's channel highlights and an N, yada, yada. So pretty cool. And you can do this with as many videos as you want to. Pinecone database, which is what this is here, is free. It's like if you go over a certain threshold, it's going to start costing you money, but it's pretty high. So you could build this for really any YouTube channel as long as you can grab the YouTube channel ID, which you can do that for any channel you want to. It's already public information. So think about the application here. If somebody has a big YouTube channel and they have an audience and they're always getting questions from their audience, you could build this tool for them where the audience can ask a question that's, referenced to the entire YouTube channel content, and they can get an answer almost as good or even better than the person who's actually making the videos themselves, right? So you can go out there and sell this. You could build this for yourself. And in the next video, the next steps, we're going to be building this from scratch. And by the way, I have this whole template in my school group down below. It's free to join. You can go in there and you can import this whole file into n8n and avoid having to connect all the modules and stuff. But either way, we're going to build this whole thing from scratch. Okay, so I'm going to assume you already have an n8n account. That's the tool we're using to build this, n8n.io. And if you don't have an account already, I have a link in the description below. You can get an account, 14-day free trial. It's $20 a month, and it gives you everything you need to start building these cool workflows. So let's start off with a manual trigger here. This will just be that whenever I click test workflow, the whole thing is going to run for a certain channel and just do all the videos in one step. The next thing we're going to need here is a set node. This will be the variable that we're going to set as channel name. So I'll just do channel name. And then here's where we're going to actually input a channel ID, which I'll show you how to fetch later. And so going back over here, we're just building this top workflow here. So the next step we're going to have is going to be the YouTube. We're going to be getting many videos. So as you can see here, we have to have a credential for our YouTube account. And this is going to require us to go into the Google console and actually create credentials for this. So I'll show you how to do this right now. We're going to go into this exact URL, console.cloud.google.com. So you should already have a Google account, most likely. And then I'm going to make a new project just to start from scratch here. So what you'll want to do is, log in, do all that stuff, and then you can create a new project here. We can just name this whatever. I'm going to leave it at that. And now this is going to be creating the new project. So we're going to go into here once this is done. Okay, cool. So it's done. I can select the project now. So now I'm in that project we just made. What I'll do now is I'm going to type in the search bar YouTube. And we should get the YouTube Data API v3. Cool, so we should be on this screen now. It says to use it. So I'll do create credentials right here. And you might get this error. Don't worry about it. Just refresh the page a few times. This happens to me every single time I make a video as well. Okay, cool. So it says what API are we using? We have the YouTube Data API v3. We're going to be using user data. Then app name does not matter. I'll just do like n8n10, and then my email, and then same email here. Continue. So for scopes, the easiest thing you can do is just select all scopes. So just this top bar right here, and then update. And then we'll do done. Actually, no, save and continue here. And then this will be the web application option. The name does not matter. And then for authorized redirect URLs, this part is important for n8n. We're going to do add URL. And this URL is going to be whatever you see right here when you're making the credential for YouTube. It's going to give you this OAuth redirect URL. So copy that and enter that URL right here. And I can do create. And then it's going to give me a client ID right here. I'm going to do done. And we're almost there. So now I'm going to go back into credentials here. And you should see this web client 1 right here. So this will give us the client ID and the client secret. We're going to enter both of these. Just copy and paste. The top one is going to go into this first option. And then client secret, let me go and grab this. This will go right here. Then I'll sign in with Google. And this should work no problem. I'll just sign in with that account that we set as the email. I'll do allow. And this should be account connected, all done. So yeah, that's the whole step with the YouTube connection. So we can close this out. And now we should be on that credential. So I'm on this new credential account 2. Resource is video operation get many. And I can have this return, let's say like the top 25 videos. I can have it return all the videos. I'm just going to do return all. And then for filters, I'm going to do this filter for channel ID here. And this channel ID is going to be pulling from that previous step. So to get that to carry over, I'm just going to enter like 1, 2, 3 here just so I have some data. I'll do test step. So this is carrying over that data, channel 1, 2, 3. I have the green connecting to YouTube. And then I'm going to drag in schema view. I'm going to drag this channel name into channel ID. And now this is going to be updating which channel we're using based on that edit fields. So that should be good. If I do test step, it's not going to work because there's not actually a channel with the ID 1, 2, 3. So to actually get the channel ID for YouTube, I'll show you how in the next step. Okay, so to grab the channel ID, you want to go to someone's channel. I'll just use Nick Sarai. He's great tutorials for n8nmake.com. So I'll go down into this more section. I'll scroll all the way down to share channel, and then I'll copy channel ID. So it's copied to clipboard. Now I can enter this into the edit fields. I'll just replace that 1, 2, 3 with this. I'll do test step. And then finally, I'll do run on this. And we should see that this returns, all the videos in their channel. So we got 161 items here. That means they have 161 videos on YouTube. And the next step we're going to do, if we go back to our reference, is we're going to loop over each of those videos. And for each of those videos, we're going to loop through. We're going to collect the transcript of the video, create a Google Doc, and move it to a certain file. So the next thing we're going to add here is going to be a loop module. And then you can just kind of exit out of this. Batch size is just going to be 1. And then I'm going to just remove this replace me. And I'm going to just cancel out this done thing. So for loop, we're going to add HTTP request. So this is what it looks like. Now for this part, what I'm using for the actual API to grab the YouTube video transcript, a company called Rapid API. So I'll show you exactly how to get this set up and also where I got the API from. So if you just search for Rapid API on Google, you should get this result. And you can just sign in or sign up. So I'd probably want to sign up. I already have an account, so I'll sign in. And then you can, once you're in here on the API marketplace, you can search for APIs. Just type in YouTube transcript. And there's a bunch of these that will actually work fine. But the one specifically that I'm using is called, let me pull it up here, is called YouTube Transcriptor. So let me go back in and find that one. It's going to be this top result, YouTube Transcriptor. So you're going to have to create a XRapid API key. So go ahead and do that. Maybe you already have one in here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab this curl. Okay, so this whole thing, we're just going to enter this into the HTTP request. So copy this whole thing and then back into n8n on this HTTP request. we're going to do import curl, this button right here. This is a huge cheat code for like everything you're doing in n8n that requires API. Just paste that curl and then we can import it. And as you can see, it's pretty much done, giving us all of the parameters and things we would need in here. And then for your API key, this is where your API key goes. It should already be in there. So the next thing is this video ID has to be coming from the previous step. So what I'll do here is I'll just do test on the loop. And now we've got green coming through here. This should be carrying over the YouTube video ID for each one of these. So now what I'm going to do for video ID is I'm going to remove that. And now on this left side, we should see in schema view, we're looking for the YouTube video ID. So that's this right here. Okay. And then if I do test step, we have that video coming through. So title is why the theory of constraints is so important in business. I have a description. And if I kind of close out a few of these things, I have a transcription that's like sentence by sentence. But if I close that out, the better one to use is going to be transcription as text. And this is like the entire video in just one string of transcripts. We're going to use that instead of, the sentence by sentence. So next step, we're going to wait for like 3 seconds, because when this actually starts to run, if we just have this going back and forth like through the loop like crazy, we're going to have some rate limits from Google Docs or rate limits from the API. So we're going to wait 3 seconds on each run just to avoid that step. So I'm going to type in wait, and then we're going to do wait 3 seconds. Okay. And then next step, we're doing Google Docs, I believe. Yeah. So we're going to make a Google Doc. That's the first thing. And then we're going to have to update that same Google Doc with the transcript as text. So let's do that now. I do Google Doc in here. We're going to create a document. And now you probably need a credential for this as well. Let's make that. So back in the console.cloud.com, on the same project, if you can, we're going to type in that, or actually, yeah, Google Docs API is what we want here. So I'm going to enable this API. Now if I go to credentials, back to web client 1, it's going to be the same exact client ID and client secret for the YouTube one. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in the client secret. And by the way, I would not share this with anyone else. I'm just going to delete these after the video. So sign in with Google here. Use the same account that you made the console.cloud account with. Connected, and as you can see, we got green here, so we're all set. So now this is accessing my Google Docs account, and what we're going to be doing is creating a document here. So to get this data to flow through, I'm just going to do a play on this wait step here. It's going to wait for 3 seconds and carry over the data. So here we go. I've got that data coming in on the inputs. And what we're going to be doing is doing create, and then for title. So title is going to be just the title of the video. So I'm going to go in from title here and just paste that in. So it says why the theory of constraints is so important in business. If I do test step, okay, this is we have issues. What's the issue here? So the issue is that we're not fetching options from Google Docs in terms of folder names and stuff. What we have to do for this is enable Google Drive in console. So back into console.cloud.google in the same project, I'm going to do Drive. So Drive API. We can just enable this and we're pretty much done. So yeah, we just enable this and then we can go back in here. And to kind of refresh this, I'm just going to like reselect our credential in here and it should start to work. So we've got my drive and then folder ID. I can choose a folder to put this in. So for this one, I'll leave this. I would leave it blank, but I guess I have to choose a folder here. So let me go into Google Drive and I'll make a folder here. Okay, I just made a Google Drive folder called n8n YouTube videos. And what I can do in here, let me just reselect the credential again so it refreshes this. And now I should see in folder name or ID, n8n YouTube videos. So this says why the theory of constraints is so important in business. If I do test step, we should be able to get that output. And now if I go back into that Drive folder I was just in, we should see that this is giving us a blank Google Doc with that title. So that's perfect so far. And next step, we're going to actually update this Google Doc so it has the transcript included. So we're going to do doc again, Google Docs. We're going to do updated document. And then for doc ID or URL, we're going to just copy that from the last step. So we've got the ID of the document. We're going to paste it into there. And then for text, you can leave all these settings the same. We're going to go into the HTTP request one and then kind of close down a few of these to get to it easier. We're going to paste in this transcription as text. Just insert that into this text field here. And you can see this is going to output all of this text here. Okay. So that's enough, and we're going to do test step. And then if I go back to that video, to that doc, we should see that the text is actually updated in that doc. So we're almost done here. This is the final thing. So you might not even need to have this Google Drive, move to file type thing. I prefer to have it because, if we just have it adding into this drive and not moving it into a certain drive when it's actually ready, it might be uploading to the database prematurely. Okay, so I'm going to go into Drive here, and then I'm going to do Move File. And so for this, I'm going to make another drive folder, and I'll just call this, let's do Nick Sarayev Vector Store, okay? So once the doc has been updated, we're going to move it to that Nick Sarayev Vector Store, and I'll show you what's important in the next few steps here. So let's see if I can find that. Okay, no results. Let me just reselect this account. Yeah, sometimes I have issues with the file being found. Or actually, no, I'm tripping. It's just going to be this. My bad. So this is going to be the same document ID that we just got from this Google Docs step. And then in the parent folder, we can choose that Nick Sarayev Vector Store. Cool. So that's going to move it to this once the doc is completed. If I do test step, okay, it should have moved. So if I go into the vector store, we see that document is now inputted in there. So fantastic. We finished out this workflow. The only last thing to do is just to drag this and set this to loop back around. So now if I run this whole thing, we should see that it loops through for each of the videos and adds a document. So I'm going to pause and come back when this is working. Oh, we're getting a problem in this HTTP request. Timing out. Let's just see what the issue says here. So I'm not really sure. This is like a problem with the API. Sometimes I have this issue. So 504 error. API took too long to respond is the issue. If I try this again, yeah, it worked. So it's kind of just an issue with the API. To prevent this from happening over and over again and kind of breaking the workflow, I'm going to go into settings of this HTTP request. I'm going to do retry on fail. I'll just put the max tries at like 5. And then I'm going to tell it to wait 2 seconds between. So this is in milliseconds, so 2000 is 2 seconds. And then on error, I'll just do continue. So that even if this video doesn't have a transcript that we can pull from, it'll still continue to do the other videos and just kind of leave this one as blank. So if I retest this workflow, we should have no problems. I'll come back once this is actually, about 30 or so videos back into the drive folder. And one more thing, I'm actually going to turn this setting. I'm going to keep error on stop workflow because if this goes through and it just has an error, it's actually going to create errors in the next few. So hopefully it'll get it within 5 tries, but I would just keep this on error and stop workflow in this HTTP request. Okay, so if I go into that drive folder, we should start to see that files are pouring in here. So I'm seeing that we've got, about 10 or so in here. If I go into one of these, here's the transcript that it pulled. So these are all the transcripts of the videos so far. They're a little bit short. So I'm thinking that some of these might be pulling from YouTube Shorts as well, which is not super ideal, but all of the information will kind of like help support the database being accurate. So it's not a big deal. And some videos are going to be longer than others on the transcript side of things. I think some videos, the YouTube transcript algorithm just, only collects some of the content. But with the videos in here, I think we'll still have a pretty good database. So yeah, I'm going to come back when this is complete. So we have this running well. It's got 30 items in there so far. I'm going to go ahead and just pause this because we're going to build the next stage of the workflow and then rerun this when this we're going to need for this next step. If I go back to our guide here, we are going to be creating a Google Drive folder trigger that when a file is added to this specific folder here, it's going to then download the file and then add it to this vector store in Pinecone. So I'll go back over here, and we can do this all in the same workflow. There's no need to really separate this. So I'm going to do tab to open up this. We'll do add another trigger down here. And then we'll do Google Drive. And then I'm going to say on changes involving a specific folder as my trigger. So we got this. So choose your credential. If you don't already have one, you can do the same thing in console. We're just going to go into Drive. You should have already enabled this. Go back to credentials, web client 1, and then you can add in your client ID and your client secret in there. So it's the same thing we just did in the previous step for Google Drive. I already have an account here, so I'm just going to close this and use the one I already have. So pull times, this is going to be every single minute. It's going to watch for new changes, and then it'll trigger this thing. So this is fine, changes to a specific folder. The folder is going to be the same folder that we're using when we move docs in. So it's going to be the same folder as the folder we have here, right? So we've got Nixraya vector store is the file. I'm sorry, the folder. So we'll do folder from list, and then I'm going to type in our folder name, so vector store. And you can watch for file created. So if I test this step, we should see we get a sample in here from a file that's already been added in. And let's see what the title of this one is. So this is how to set up n8n in self-hosting in 3 minutes. Perfect. So file created. Now what we're going to do is we're going to download the file. So same thing, Google Drive. And this is going to be the download file. In the file from list, we're going to change this to by ID. And then we're going to go in and find the file ID in our inputs from the Drive trigger here. So let me go ahead and find it. We're going to have to scroll down a little bit and close a few things out. I think it's right here, this space, this ID under spaces. So we're going to just drag this in. And now we can test this out. We can just do test step. And we've got this file being downloaded on the server. The next thing we're going to do is do Pinecone. So Pinecone vector store. And this is going to be add documents to vector store. Now, obviously, we're going to have to make an account here. It's free to build, and it's very simple. Let's do it right now. So in a new tab here, go to pinecone.io. And you're probably going to have to sign up and make it. I already have one here. So what we're going to do here is create a new index. Once you're in, create a new index. And I'll call this Nick Sarayev. Yeah, that's fine. For configuration, we got a few different options here. So we're going to use OpenAI, and I'm going to use the text embedding 3 large. This is better for large pieces of content like YouTube video transcripts. I'll choose large. And everything else is fine to keep. We can do create index now. I've reached the max. Hold on, let me come back after I delete one. All right, I'm back. Should work now if I do create index. Cool, so this is giving me a green dot. That's good. This will take a little second to create. But now what I can do is go and grab my API key. So you can do create API key here. You can name this whatever. And then permissions are all. You can create the key. You can copy it right there. And then back into n8n. I'm going to make a new credential here and then paste that API key and just save it. So now we got this connection successful. Insert documents, and I'll choose that same database we just made there. So if I do from list, I now see Nick's Drive YouTube. Perfect. And then, yeah, that should be good if I do test step. Okay, so we got to connect a few things here. So for embedding, we're going to choose down here OpenAI. So I just did embedding here, OpenAI. We're going to use the same model that we configured on the Pinecone step. So we'll do large. Okay. And then for document, we'll do default data loader here. Type of data should actually be binary. And then all of these settings are fine to keep. Finally, I'm going to add the text splitter as recursive character text splitter. This is just the default one. And then for chunk size, this is going to be like slicing down the data into chunks. That's more accessible for the AI to retrieve. I'm going to set mine to like 2000 just to make it a little bit larger. And then we're going to overlap the chunks at 100 apiece, so we're not missing any data on accident. And so this should be good now if I test this again. So this is going to be adding that Drive folder, how to set up n8n self-hosting in 3 minutes, to that database. And it looks like that was successful. It created 14 chunks out of that file. So if I go back into Pinecone and I go to my database, and if I refresh this, we should see that in this browser, some records are going to come in here. It might take a few seconds. So yeah, as you can see, we've got 10 or so records in here. So it looks good. And it might just be giving us a 10 at a time. So yeah, this is working properly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rerun this whole thing. So what I'm going to do is go back to that drive folder with the vector store. I'm going to just delete all of these, move to trash, and we'll just do it for all of them. So I've got a blank folder here. And now what I'm going to do is just rerun this automation so that when the new files are added in here, it's going to trigger and add them to the vector store as well. So we're going to rerun this test workflow. And now this whole thing is going to work for all the videos, and it should be adding them to the actual vector store. And the next step, we're going to actually be attaching the vector store to an AI agent and be chatting with it. So we're almost done. All right, so we could be waiting here for another hour. I'm just going to stop the workflow. We already have 17 documents in this drive folder. So now what we'll do is we're going to do tab and then add a new trigger here. And this will be on a chat message. So I have this chat node here. We're now going to be adding a tools agent. So if I just type in, actually just AI agent should be fine. AI agent. Okay, that's good. Chat model, we're going to configure this to be OpenAI. And by the way, if you don't have an OpenAI account, I might have skipped this step in the previous module. We're going to make a new API key. So if I go to platform.openai.com and then log in to whatever account you're already using for ChatGPT or make a new account, and then go to settings, and then finally API keys right here. I'm going to make a new secret key. I can name this whatever, and then project, just choose like default project or whatever's in there, and then make a new secret key. Now I can copy this key into n8n, and I have an API key installed for ChatGPT, so I'll save this. So we got this green success message. So I'm going to use GPT-4o for this. I think it's like the best mix of affordability and utility. So I've got that now. And then if I go to tool, we're going to type in vector, and then you get vector store tool. And this we're just going to call YouTube knowledge base. In description, we can just say retrieves data about Nick Sarayev's YouTube channel. Just fix a few typos here. Cool. And limit is 4. That's fine. It's going to be pulling at most 4 records to give us a good answer. So that's fine. For vector store down here, I'm going to choose Pinecone. And the same credential should be synced up, no problem. Retrieve documents, and then from list, we're going to choose that same vector database that we created previously. So from Nick Sarayev YouTube. And then for embeddings model, we're going to go to OpenAI. And then we're going to choose the same one we did previously. So text embedding 3 large. And then for model right here, we're going to do OpenAI and then GPT-4o again. Cool. So this whole thing is set up. And then for memory, so I want to have some in-chat memory so that it can recall my previous messages. So this is very easy. We're going to do plus and window buffer memory. Context window length is 5. If you want this to recall more of the previous conversations, you could increase this to, let's say, 10, but 5 is what I need, so that's fine. Okay, so this whole thing should be working now. If I do chat and I say hello, first of all, so how can I assist you today? And I'll say, tell me about Nick Sarayev. So now that we can see this is actually calling that database we just made, it's saying it couldn't find any details. So that's maybe because it's too specific of a question, but I'll say like, tell me about n8n. Cool, so this is coming from, so I want to find like a specific video that we imported in here. Yeah, so I have a better question to ask it. Tell me about Nick Sarayev YouTube channel. And as we can see, it's pulling from that Pinecone vector database and giving us an answer based on what kind of content he's producing. So I think if we let this run for like, let's say 50 or more videos, we'd have some better answers, but this is still pulling pretty good. I can see exactly what content it's using to give me this answer. So it's just a big blob of transcript from a video. And so it's going to be using that to give me an educated answer. So, you know, just for a demo purpose of this video to show you how to make it, I mean, this is working fine. Now, if I wanted to act somewhere else, I can do in the chat message received. Let me hide the chat. So on this module, if I do make a chat publicly available, and then I can do on hosted chat, if I copy this and go to a new tab and paste this, and first of all, let me make sure my automation is actually on. Okay, so we're on now. If I paste this in, we have this chatbot here. So I say, tell me about okay, so we should get an answer here. So it's the same exact thing as if I was prompting this in the chat here. And we'll see what this answer comes back as. So Nick Scrive's YouTube channel is focused on automation and tech tutorials. Cool. So yeah, that's essentially it. Let me do like, tell me about make money with Make. So the more information you feed into this, the better this will get. Cool. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty good answers from the YouTube channel. Like it wouldn't know this just on its own. So that's the whole video, guys. I mean, if you want to skip deploying this manually, like I said, from this cool group, the link is down below. It's free to join. And then also, if you don't have an account in n8n already, I have that link in there as well. So if you like this content, like and subscribe for more videos just like this on building an n8n, but also how to sell this as well. So final thing to wrap up here, I would go in and I would find YouTube producers or content creators wants to ask them questions. And then I would say, hey, I can build you this whole thing, give them a demo. And I would say you could sell this for at least $2,000, all the way up to maybe 10,000 or 15,000 if they have a really large audience. And if you make this really good. So hope you enjoyed the video and more in the future. If you like to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.